Inanna's descent to the Netherworld. From the great heaven, she set her mind on the great below. From the great heaven, the goddess set her mind on the great below. From the great heaven, Inanna set her mind on the great below. My mistress abandoned heaven, abandoned earth, and descended to the underworld. Inanna abandoned heaven, abandoned earth, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the office of Lagar, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Anna Anog, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Imak Kalama and Bad Tabira, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Gaguna in Zabalam, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Ikara in Adab, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Barag Durjara in Nibru, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Hersaj Kalama in Kik, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Olmak in Agad, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Ibgal in Uma, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Daluma in Urim, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Amak Ikug in Kasiga, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Ikdam Kug in Jersu, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Isig Mesedu in Isan, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Anzagar in Akak, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Najin Jarkug in Kurapag, and descended to the underworld. She abandoned the Ikagula in Kazulu, and descended to the underworld. She took the 7 divine powers. She collected the divine powers and grasped them in her hand. With the good divine powers, she went on her way. She put a turban, headgear for the open country, on her head. She took a wig for her forehead. She hung small lapis lazuli beads around her neck. She placed twin egg-shaped beads on her breast. She covered her body with a pala dress, the garment of ladyship. She placed mascara, which is called "Let a man come, let him come," on her eyes. She pulled the pectoral, which is called "Come, man, come," over her breast. She placed a golden ring on her hand. She held the lapis lazuli measuring rod and measuring line in her hand. Inanna traveled towards the underworld. Her minister, Ninshubur, traveled behind her. Holy Inanna said to Ninshubur, "Come, my faithful minister of Inanna, my minister who speaks fair words, my escort who speaks trustworthy words. I'm going to give you instructions. My instructions must be followed. I'm going to say something to you. It must be observed. On this day I will descend to the underworld. When I have arrived in the underworld, make a lament for me on the ruined mounds. Beat the drum for me in the sanctuary. Make the rounds of the houses of the gods for me. Lacerate your eyes for me. Lacerate your nose for me. Lacerate your ears for me in public. In private, lacerate your buttocks for me. Like a pauper, clothe yourself in a single garment, and all alone set your foot in the Akur, the house of Enlil. When you have entered the Akur, the house of Enlil, lament before Enlil. Father Enlil, don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with a mason's stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young Lady Inanna be killed in the underworld. If Enlil does not help you in this matter, go to Urim. In the Imudkura at Urim, when you have entered the Ikik Nujal, the house of Nana, lament before Nana. Father Nana, don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason's stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young Lady Inanna be killed in the underworld. And if Nanna does not help you in this matter, go to Eredog. In Eredog, when you have entered the house of Inki, lament before Inki. Father Inki, don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason's stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young Lady Inanna be killed in the underworld. Father Inki, the Lord of great wisdom, knows about the life-giving plant and the life-giving water. He is the one who will restore me to life. When Inanna traveled on towards the underworld, her minister Ninshubur traveled on behind her. She said to her minister Ninshubur, "Go now, my Ninshubur, and pay attention. Don't neglect the instructions I gave you." When Inanna arrived at the palace Ganzer, she pushed aggressively on the door of the underworld. She shouted aggressively at the gate of the underworld. "Open up, doorman! Open up! Open up, Nettie! Open up! I am all alone and I want to come in." Nettie, the chief doorman of the underworld, answered holy Inanna, "Who are you?" "I am Inanna going to the east." "If you are Inanna going to the east, why have you traveled to the land of no return? How did you set your heart on the road whose traveler never returns?" Holy Inanna answered him, "Because Lord Gudgalana, the husband of my elder sister, holy Eric Kigala, has died. In order to have his funeral rites observed, she offers generous libations at his wake. That is the reason." Nettie, the chief doorman of the underworld, answered holy Inanna, "Stay here, Inanna. I will speak to my mistress. I will speak to my mistress Eric Kigala and tell her what you have said." Nettie, the chief doorman of the underworld, entered the house of his mistress Eric Kigala and said, "My mistress, there is a lone girl outside. It is Inanna, your sister, and she has arrived at the palace Ganzer." She pushed aggressively on the door of the underworld. She shouted aggressively at the gate of the underworld. She has abandoned Inanna and has descended to the underworld. She has taken the 7 divine powers. She has collected the divine powers and grasped them in her hand. She has come on her way with all the good divine powers. She has put a turban headgear for the open country on her head. She has taken a wig for her forehead. She has hung small lapis lazuli beads around her neck. She has placed twin egg beads on her breast. She has covered her body with the pala dress of ladyship. She has placed mascara, which is called Let a Man Come, on her eyes. She has pulled the pectoral, which is called Come Man Come, over her breast. She has placed a golden ring on her hand. She is holding the lapis lazuli measuring rod and measuring line in her hand. When she heard this, Eric Kigala slapped the side of her thigh. She bit her lip and took the words to heart. She said to Nettie, her chief doorman, "Come, Nettie, my chief doorman of the underworld. Don't neglect this instructions I will give you. Let the 7 gates of the underworld be bolted. Then let each door of the palace Ganzer be opened separately. As for her, after she has entered and crouched down and had her clothes removed, they will be carried away." Nettie, the chief doorman of the underworld, paid attention to the instructions of his mistress. He bolted the 7 gates of the underworld. Then he opened each of the doors of the palace Ganzer separately. He said to holy Inanna, "Come on, Inanna, and enter." And when Inanna entered, the lapis lazuli measuring rod and measuring line were removed from her hand. She entered the first gate. The turban, headgear for the open country, was removed from her head. "What is this?" "Be satisfied, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld." When she entered the second gate, the small lapis lazuli beads were removed from her neck. "What is this?" "Be satisfied, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld." When she entered the third gate, the twin egg-shaped beads were removed from her breast. "What is this?" "Be satisfied, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld." When she entered the fourth gate, the "Come, man, come" pectoral was removed from her breast. "What is this?" "Be satisfied, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld." When she entered the fifth gate, the golden ring was removed from her hand. "What is this?" "Be satisfied, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld." When she entered the sixth gate, the lapis lazuli measuring rod and measuring line were removed from her hand. "What is this?" "Be satisfied, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld." When she entered the seventh gate, the pala dress, the garment of ladyship, was removed from her body. "What is this?" "Be satisfied, Inanna. A divine power of the underworld has been fulfilled. Inanna, you must not open your mouth against the rights of the underworld." After she had crouched down and had her clothes removed, they were carried away. Then she made her sister Eric Higala rise from her throne, and instead she sat on her throne. The Anuna, the 7 judges, rendered their decision against her. They looked at her. It was the look of death. They spoke to her. It was the speech of anger. They shouted at her. It was the shout of heavy guilt. The afflicted woman was turned into a corpse, and the corpse was hung on a hook. After 3 days and 3 nights had passed, her minister Ninshubur carried out the instructions of her mistress. She made a lament for her in her ruined house. She beat the drum for her in the sanctuaries. She made the round of the houses of the gods for her. She lacerated her eyes for her. She lacerated her nose. In private, she lacerated her buttocks for her. Like a pauper, she clothed herself in a single garment, and all alone she set her foot in Ikur, the house of Enlil. When she had entered the Ikur, the house of Enlil, she lamented before Enlil, "Father Enlil, don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason's stone. Don't let your boxwood chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young lady Inanna be killed in the underworld." In his rage, Father Enlil answered Ninshubur, "My daughter craved the great heaven, and she craved the great below as well. Inanna craved the great heaven, and she craved the great below as well. The divine powers of the underworld are divine powers which should not be craved, for whoever gets them must remain in the underworld. Who, having got to that place, could then expect to come up again? Thus Father Enlil did not help in this matter, so she went to Urim, and the Imudkura at Urim. When she had entered the Ikiknujal, the house of Nana, she lamented before Nana, "Father Nana, don't let your daughter be killed in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason's stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young Lady Inanna be killed in the underworld." In his rage, Father Nana answered Ninshubur, "My daughter craved the great heaven, and she craved the great below as well. Inanna craved the great heaven, and she craved the great below as well. The divine powers of the underworld are divine powers which should not be craved, for whoever gets them must remain in the underworld. Who, having got to that place, could then expect to come up again?" Thus Father Nana did not help her in this matter, so she went to Eridog. In Eridog, when she had entered the house of Enki, she lamented before Enki, "Father Enki, don't let anyone kill your daughter in the underworld. Don't let your precious metal be alloyed there with the dirt of the underworld. Don't let your precious lapis lazuli be split there with the mason's stone. Don't let your boxwood be chopped up there with the carpenter's wood. Don't let young Lady Inanna be killed in the underworld." Father Enki answered Ninshubur, "What has my daughter done? She has me worried. What has Inanna done? She has me worried. What has the mistress of all lands done? She has me worried. What has the Haradol of En done? She has me worried." Thus Father Enki helped her in this matter. He removed some dirt from the tip of his fingernail and created the Kurjara. He removed some dirt from the tip of his other fingernail and created the Galatura. To the Kurjara he gave the life-giving plant. To the Galatura he gave the life-giving water. Then Father Enki spoke out to the Galatura and Kurjara, "One of you sprinkle the life-giving plant over her, and the other the life-giving water. Go and direct your steps to the underworld. Flit past the door like flies. Slip through the door pivots like phantoms. The mother who gave birth, Eric Kigala, on account of her children, is lying there. Her holy shoulders are not covered by a linen cloth. Her breasts are not full like a Kagan vessel. Her nails are like a pickaxe upon her. The hair on her head is bunched up as if it were leeks. When she says, 'Oh, my heart,' you are to say, 'You are troubled, our mistress, O your heart.' When she says, 'Oh, my liver,' you are to say, 'You are troubled, O mistress, by your liver.' She will then ask, 'Who are you?' Speaking to you from my heart to your heart, from my liver to your liver. If you are gods, let me talk with you. If you are mortals, may a destiny be decreed for you. Make her swear this by heaven and earth. They will offer you a river full of water. Don't accept it. They will offer you a field with its grain. Don't accept it, but say to her, 'Give us the corpse hanging on the hook. That is the corpse of your queen.' Say to her, 'Whether it is that of our king, whether it is that of our queen, give it to us.' She will give you the corpse hanging on the hook. One of you sprinkle on it the life-giving plant, and the other the life-giving water. Thus let Inanna rise." The Galatura and the Kurjara paid attention to the instructions of Enki. They flitted through the door like flies. They slipped through the door pivots like phantoms. The mother who gave birth, Eric Kigala, because of her children, was lying there. Her holy shoulders were not covered by a linen cloth. Her breasts were not full like a Kagan vessel. Her nails were like a pickaxe upon her. The hair on her head was bunched up as if it were leeks. When she said, "Oh, my heart," They said to her, "You are troubled, our mistress, O your heart." When she said, "O my liver," they said to her, "You are troubled, our mistress, O your liver." "Who are you?" "I tell you, from my heart to your heart, from my liver to your liver. If you are gods, I will talk with you. If you are mortals, may a destiny be a decree for you." They made her swear this by heaven and earth. They were offered a river with its water. They did not accept it. They were offered a field with its grain. They did not accept it. They said to her, "Give us the corpse hanging on the hook." Holy Eric Kigala answered the Galatura and the Kurjara, "The corpse is that of your queen." They said to her, "Whether it is that of our king or that of our queen, give it to us." They were given the corpse hanging on the hook. One of them sprinkled on it life-giving plant, and the other life-giving water, and thus Inanna rose. Eric Kigala said to the Galatura and the Kurjara, "Bring your queen. Your has been seized." Inanna, because of Inki's instructions, was about to ascend from the underworld. But as Inanna was about to ascend from the underworld, the Anuna seized her. Who has ever ascended from the underworld? Has ascended unscathed from the underworld. If Inanna is to ascend from the underworld, let her provide a substitute for herself. So when Inanna left the underworld, the one in front of her, though not a minister, held a scepter in his hand. The one behind her, though not an escort, carried a mace at his hip, while the small demons, like a reed enclosure, and the big demons, like the reeds of a fence, restrained her on all sides. Those who accompanied her, those who accompanied Inanna, know no food, know no drink, eat no flower offering, and drink no libation. They accept no pleasant gifts. They never enjoy the pleasures of the marital embrace, never have any sweet children to kiss. They tear away the wife from a man's embrace. They snatch the son from a man's knee. They make the bride leave the house of the father-in-law. They take the wife away from a man's embrace. They take away the children hanging on a wet nurse's breast. They crush no bitter garlic. They eat no fish. They eat no leeks. They, it was, who accompanied Inanna. After Inanna had ascended from the underworld, Ninshubur threw herself at her feet at the door of Ganzer. She had sat in the dust and clothed herself in a filthy garment. The demon said to holy Inanna, "Inanna, proceed to your city. We will take her back." Holy Inanna answered the demons, "This is my minister of fair words, my escort of trustworthy words. She did not forget my instructions. She did not neglect the orders I gave her. She made a lament for me on the ruined mounds. She beat the drum for me in the sanctuaries. She made the rounds of the gods' houses for me. She lacerated her eyes for me, lacerated her nose for me. In private, she lacerated her buttocks for me. Like a pauper, she clothed herself in a single garment. All alone she directed her steps to Ikur, to the house of Enlil, and to Urim, to the house of Nanna, and to Eridug, to the house of Inki. She wept before Inki. She brought me back to life. How could I turn her over to you? Let us go on. Let us go on to the Sid Kurkaga in Oma. At the Sid Kurkaga in Oma, Kara, in his own city, threw himself at her feet. He had sat in the dust and dressed himself in a filthy garment. The demon said to holy Inanna, "Inanna, proceed to your city. We will take him back." Holy Inanna answered the demons, "Kara is my singer, my manicurist, and my hairdresser. How could I turn him over to you? Let us go on. Let us go on to the Imat Kalama in Bad Tibera. At the Imat Kalama in Bad Tibera, Lulal, in his own city, threw himself at her feet. He had sat in the dust and clothed himself in a filthy garment. The demon said to holy Inanna, "Proceed to your city. We will take him back." Holy Inanna answered the demons, "Outstanding Lula follows me at my right and my left. How could I turn him over to you? Let us go on. Let us go on to the great apple tree in the plain of Kulaba." They followed her to the great apple tree in the plain of Kulaba. There was Dumuzid, clothed in a magnificent garment, and seated magnificently on a throne. The demon seized him there by his thighs. The 7 of them poured the milk from his churns. The 7 of them shook their heads like they would not let the shepherd play the pipe and flute before her. She looked at him. It was the look of death. She spoke to him. It was the speech of anger. She shouted at him. It was the shout of heavy guilt. How much longer? Take him away. Holy Inanna gave Dumuzid the shepherd into their hands. Those who had accompanied her, who had come for Dumuzid, no food, no drink, eat no flour offering, drink no libation. They never enjoy the pleasures of the marital embrace, never have any sweet children to kiss. They snatch the son from a man's knee. They make the bride leave the house of her father-in-law. Dumuzid let out a wail and turned very pale. The lad raised his hands to heaven, to Utu. "Utu, you are a brother-in-law. I am your relation by marriage. I brought butter to your mother's house. I brought milk to Ningal's house. Turn my hands into snakes' hands, and turn my feet into snakes' feet, so I can escape my demons. Let them not keep hold of me." Utu accepted his tears. Dumuzid's demons could not keep hold of him. Utu turned Dumuzid's hands into snake hands. He turned his feet into snake's feet. Dumuzid escaped his demons. Holy Inanna wept bitterly for her husband. She tore at her hair like esparto grass. She ripped it out like esparto grass. "You wives who lie in your men's embrace, where is my precious husband? You children who lie in your men's embrace, where is my precious child? Where is my man? Where? Where is my man? Where?" A fly spoke to holy Inanna. "If I show you where your man is, what will be my reward?" Holy Inanna answered the fly. "If you show me where my man is, I will give you this gift." The fly helped holy Inanna. The young lady Inanna decreed the destiny of the fly in the beer house and the tavern. May there, for you will live like the sons of the wise. Now Inanna decreed his fate, and thus it came to be. She was weeping. She came up to the sister, and by the hand, "Now alas, you for half the year, and your sister for half the year. When you are demanded, on that day you will stay. When your sister is demanded, on that day you will be released." Thus holy Inanna gave Dumuzid as a substitute. Holy Eric Higala, sweet is your praise. Okay guys, thanks very much, and that was the descent of Inanna to the Netherworld. Now part of this text is fragmentary, so a few of the lines might not make sense, but for now it is the best we can do. So this is Megalithic Maiden, JJ Ainsworth. I hope you enjoyed this story, and talk to y'all later.